call the tobacco smoking ordinance work group to order at 8:30 a.m. Thank you for all your work, Tom, on providing us some additional information on the ordinance. We have a red line. It looks like Bob had this included.
Yep.
Bob DeCrescenzo's comments. And then we also had some additional information regarding violations of the ordinances that we already have on the books regarding alcoholic beverages and sale of equipment to minors related to tobacco and drugs going back to 2019, and then also some information on ordinances, fine amounts from other towns. So why don't we just start by taking a look at the red line of the ordinance. First of all, Heather, did you have any questions that you wanted to raise right off the bat about the information that we got?
No, I actually thought that it looked pretty cleaned up nicely and good. And then, you know, the only thing that we kind of really discussed was that $100 and how it compares to others, which I definitely would not be in favor of going below 100. You know, I think that there should be a consequence or a reason, a deterrent. So, so I'm good with that.
Yeah,
I didn't have any points to raise.
And I also think that the fine amount, the proposed fine amount of $100 fits within our neighboring towns. Canton's has 150 for the first offense, subsequent offenses at 200, so they're actually a little above us. Cheshire looks like it's between 25 to 100. South Windsor is between 50 and 100. Windsor is a little below at 35. So it seems like we are fitting right within.
Definitely.
The
Those
range.
were a combo of smoking and alcohol too.
Okay.
Doing a quick kind of look in their code of ordinances, so it's
Okay.
not totally a smoking or totally an alcohol. But
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
we wanted to kind of, we talked about last time bringing everything kind of in line, so
Right.
I figured it
Right.
made sense to include everything.
Yeah, and I think that that does. Another thing is that the scope of this ordinance is it's banning the vaping or smoking or consumption of products on property owned and or controlled by the town of Simsbury, which we talked about is slightly different scope than what the alcohol policy is, because the alcohol policy is limited to buildings. But I assume Bob was okay with the scope of this for this ordinance. I think that we want this ordinance to not obviously just be related to buildings, because people are concerned about
In parks.
the parks and sidewalks and things like that, with being able to, for smoking. So, and we had discussed at our last meeting whether we should look at the scope of the alcohol policy, but I think, as Heather and I have thought maybe more about this scope of what our work group is to do is to look at this ordinance. So I think we're just going to limit what we put forward to the Board of Selectmen to this ordinance, and then if upon discussion there, we decide to take a look and revise the ordinances that we have already on the books regarding tobacco or alcohol, and looking at the scope of those, that would be something separate than what we're doing here. So we'll just kind of keep to what our mission was and not address that. The only other thing that we had discussed last time that had to do with properties was we had discussed the golf course.
Yeah.
Did you have any further discussions with anyone about that, Tom?
I followed up with Tom, I have to remember off the top of my head, sorry. So they have the golf course restaurant in their lease has like the authorization to be the alcohol like seller to the golf course, which is obviously not the point of this, as you know, tobacco opposed to smoking. I don't think I saw kind of a touch on that for the golf course, but I can double check.
Well, as it is written right now, it would be, the smoking would be prohibited there.
Yeah,
Which I think, I would be okay with letting it stand like that right now, and then if they feel strongly about having an exemption, I mean, again, we can take that up when we have public comment, and when we further that, the ordinance. But I don't know that we need to hold it up in the work group any longer for that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
you can always listen to that before too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also agree with, you know, as you said, that we agree on the not including alcohol in this only because we were tasked by our board to look at just this right now. And when we bring this back to the board, if, you know, we can certainly have that discussion if we want to revisit the alcohol and go from there. But right now, I don't think that we should go, get out of the scope that we were tasked with by our board.
I agree. And I don't know, I mean, did you have any questions or any thoughts that you wanted to share on the information regarding the violations, the summary of the history of violations? I mean, it seems like it is a pretty, even though this had to do with alcohol and tobacco equipment, sale of tobacco equipment to minors, we are looking at a very small number of violations a year. Some years, there were no violations. Other years, there would be 1, 2. One year, there was 5. So this isn't, I think that's just information kind of is what it is. I think that it shows that we do use these violations, we enforce them, but that it doesn't appear like we have.
Yeah, it was good to pull the data, but good to not see a large number.
Yeah.
So, I think
Well, I mean, in terms of smoking, there were 2, it looks like what it was vaping of minors, but, you know, obviously putting this in place that will then
Yeah, it,
possibly
well,
look very different in years to come.
Yep.
right.
But it was good, and thank you for this data.
and you have a data point now as kind of pre-ordinance, and then
Exactly.
after the ordinance, you can come back in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road and see what has happened since.
So do we have any other questions or discussion you think about this?
Maybe a potential timeline?
Oh, I would
So-
love a timeline. I actually thought, yes, I was gonna ask you that.
So if you're okay with going straight, just sending this off to the full board for the scheduling public hearing and all that, I
Mhm.
would think it would be easy to put on the September 11th meeting for scheduling the public hearing. I have to go double check that the amount of days between that meeting and the next one in September, like, who qualified to make the public hearing that second meeting in September.
Okay,
It should, because you have an extra 2 days. 'Cause
Right.
that board of select meeting's on Wednesday.
The
because of-
27th.
Because the Monday is Yom Kippur.
right.
So we should be fine to schedule for that second meeting, the public hearing happening on the second meeting in September. And then, as always, you guys have done, either you can, we'll put it on the agenda for action that night, or if you get overwhelming public hearing and you guys come home and decide to take it back to the work group, you'll just table the action, we can reschedule a work group meeting, and then go from there.
Okay.
And if it goes, if it gets voted on, how long does it take to go into effect?
It is, on the spot, 21 days after being approved or then posted in the news. I think we have to post in the newspaper right after that board of select meeting. So basically it'd be 3 weeks, just close to 3 weeks after that meeting.
So the end of October. Yeah. So we would get it done before the referendum, before the election.
Yep.
Before the ballot question comes up. So then that would be good to have that in place already, depending on how that goes. Okay. So, if we don't have any further discussion, I think our action that we need to take would be to move the draft of the ordinance as it stands now, and as reviewed by Bob DeCrescenza and by our work group, forward for discussion at our September 11th Board of Selectmen meeting.
And then also every mailing you guys do is.
Done?
Okay, I'll second that. All those. I don't think there's any abstentions or nays.
No.
If there isn't any further discussion about this, then I'll adjourn our work group meeting, and we will look forward to having a full discussion on this ordinance at our September 11th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. All right, so motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. And we're adjourned at 8:41.